welcome to the flight deck of the Hawker 850 XP by Carenado. We are currently en route from Kenai to Dutch Harbor, Alaska and the Iliutian Islands, and we are cruising here at flight level 380, and we're about 58 miles from Cold Bay. We will be starting our descent into Dutch Harbor here in a few minutes, and the first thing we need to do is take care of some items of business. You're going to notice if you were with me in part 1, you're going to notice there's something different here in the multifunction display. We have installed the Garmin GTN 750 and touchscreen navigator. And so first thing I need to do here is let's go ahead and dial up our approach into Dutch Harbor. So we're going to use the GPS Echo approach, and we're going to use the Morty transition. So let's go ahead and load that up, and let me see, we need to actually remove that leg, and we'll put it down here after the missed approach point. So Papa Alpha Delta uniform down there, let's enter that. And let's go back and look at the map and just be sure we're happy with the results. Cold Bay, yep, everything looks good there. And next thing I want to do is come in, let's go back and use our VCalc to come up with a vertical descent profile. So we want to descend down to 2500, which is where we will start our approach on the GPS. And that looks good. And 1500 feet a minute looks good, and the target waypoint, let's see if I want to loot, or I think we can use this one. The loot's 9 miles out, so let's use that one, but let's make it 5 miles before 5 mile offset. There we are. Enter that. So all that looks good. What's this message? Airspace and parking. Yeah, it wants us to go ahead and start now. So we're going to get that going. Get back here to our map. Yeah, so we're ready to start that descent now. It's calling for 1500 feet a minute. So I'm going to go ahead and dial us down. ATC has cleared us to do so, I assure you. And we are flying flat out right now. I've got this thing pretty much maxed out. We're doing with 98.9 N1, indicating right at Mach 0.816, and that's giving us a ground speed of 499 knots with a 29 knot tailwind, so not too shabby. I'm going to ease that power back just slightly. Let's come on back to about 97% there, and let's dial our altitude down. So I'm going to bring us down to 180 to start with. That's how far ATC has authorized us to descend. And we're going to come down. I'm going to go ahead and increase that descent rate to about 1500 feet a minute. So let me zoom in and see about where we are here. Somewhere right in there. That looks good. It's 1300. And we just need to keep an eye on our speed here and try to stay out of the VNE area. And so I'm going to go ahead and ease back on that power just a little bit more. Now let's see how that looks. See what that power setting is. 96.5. Yeah, there we go. So I think that's going to get us heading in the right direction. We can check our fuel here, but there's a click spot right here. And just to say a few words about the gentleman that helped me put this GTN 750 in here. His name is Bert Pieke, and if you've ever spent any time over on AVSIM forums, particularly in the Carenado area, but in other areas as well, A2A as well, forums, you'll see Bert's name pop up quite frequently. He is pretty much a legend as far as I'm concerned, and he does coding and answers a lot of questions and is pretty much a genius, I think. And he can correct a lot of the issues that you'll find in some of the airplanes, and does that a lot, and then shares those modifications. And he shared this one. He was kind enough to do that, and I really appreciate that. So we're going to just see how well it works. Starting to see some of the volcanic islands. Well, we have seen them all along our route, but we'll see more of them as we go. This actually, let's see, where are we there? Yeah, those are the ones just beyond Cold Bay, and those peak out about 200 and, sorry, it's not 200, it's about 10,000 feet. I think that one's about 10,000 feet. So, yeah, that's where we are. And let me just look in here and see how we're doing. We're coming down through flight level 340, 276 knots indicated, and we're below the red line. Nice ground speed, still showing about 1,500, a little more. Everything looks very good there. You will notice that with this modification that the CDU displays are inactive, and we don't need those. Everything that we would do here we can do up with the touchscreen navigator. So that's part of the mod, but it works well, and honestly I feel a whole lot more confident flying approaches, particularly here in Dutch Harbor with this GTN. So that's all good, and nice job. Thank you very much, Bert. So we're in the turn here, Cold Bay, heading to Morty, our next waypoint, and the descent. And it's late in the day here in the Iliutian Islands. We actually crossed into another time zone after we left Kenai, and so it's roughly around 8 o'clock at night, and sun's getting low in the sky over there, as you can see. But we're in mid-June, actually late June, and so it stays daylight a whole lot longer this time of year. And it's partly cloudy. I'm starting to see some clouds build up, and the weather at Dutch Harbor is forecasting an overcast of about 2,600 feet. We can descend down to about 1,800 feet. So we should be able to get under that overcast and hopefully find the runway and fly the GPS. It's a circling approach, so we're going to have to do a little maneuvering once we get down and find the runway. So that should be fun, and we'll see how it goes. The message down here of some certain airspace alerts, and we're still looking good at our 1,500 feet a minute in the descent and 467 knots. So we're cooking here. And just share a few fun facts about Dutch Harbor and the Iliutian Islands for that matter. And one of the things that's, of course, the natives here, they're referred to as Aleuts, and so of course the name Iliutian Island, I'm sure, is derived from that. Russians came back and came here back in late 1700s, maybe somewhere along in there, and they actually started taxing the local natives for living there, and they taxed them in furs, pelts, seal and sea otter. And then in the mid-1800s, of course, Russia sold Alaska to the United States, and so the United States began exporting the fur and did so for a while until they began to get scarce. And so eventually gold prospectors came down here looking for gold, and so that brought a few people down here. But this is a fairly remote and low populated. Only about 8,000 people live out here, and there's something like 300 islands. So yeah, it's yeah, if you want to get away, great place to come, that's for sure. World War II brought an entire army and supplies to Dutch Harbor, and by May of 1943 there was something close to 10,000 sailors and 10,000 soldiers on Dutch Harbor stationed there. And Dutch Harbor was also a home for refugees from the Aleutian Islands. They came there and were housed, and there was, I think, a bar on the island. It was named Blackie's, and it was the only bar in the area, and they had cheap beer, and you could get a shot of whiskey for 50 cents. But they didn't have any bar stools or chairs, as they were known to splinter too easily in the event of a fight. So apparently it's kind of a rough little establishment. And there was also about the only other entertainment was a brothel on the island, and it was named Pleasure Island appropriately. So yeah, and then another fun fact, but before I get there, let me just check in and see how we're doing down here. And that would be another airspace alert. So we're kind of in and out of those, but we assure you have a clearance. And let's see, we're still 50 miles from Morty, and we're coming down through 25,000 feet, 1,500 feet a minute, still working for us. So probably can start slowing that up. And I think I might slow it up one notch, and then I'm going to check in on our pressurization, and then go from there. So just bring that up just ever so slightly. One more notch here. See if that changed. Yep, that did it. And let's go over here and dial down our pressurization. Let's go ahead and start that descending down. So the Dutch Harbor Airport is 22 feet above sea level. And there's runway 13 and 31, 4,500 foot runway. And back in the day, Alaska Air. Oh, before I get there, let me pick back up about World War II. There was what's known as the Battle of Dutch Harbor in June of 1942. Dutch Harbor was one of the few sites besides Pearl Harbor that was attacked by the Japanese, and they bombed Dutch Harbor from 2 aircraft carriers. About 20 airplanes came and bombed the radio station and some petroleum storage tanks, and did a fair amount of damage. And in recent years, Dutch Harbor has become a full-service port, providing all the fishing industry needs, and it is ranked one of the top fishing ports, doing more than $1 billion worth of fishing and various things, cods and pollock, and of course Alaskan king crab. And if you've ever watched Discovery Channel's reality series Deadliest Catch, you'll know that most of those crab fishing vessels are based in Dutch Harbor, and it's very close to the Bering Sea, which has a continental shelf that's one of the world's largest, and it supports a very rich ecosystem. So that makes Dutch Harbor a very popular fishing port, and it is one of the largest, if not the largest, in the United States. I think Kodiak's pretty big too, but yeah, great. You like to fish, but getting here is a challenge. Alaska Air did used to fly in scheduled flights into Dutch Harbor in a 737-200. It got to be fairly challenging. Weather is, it rains something like 250 days a year in Dutch Harbor, so they discontinued that service, and it was picked up by another airline, PAEN Air, and they fly out of Anchorage, and so flights that come in here mostly come out of Anchorage and or Cold Bay. But sometimes the flights are delayed days and maybe even a week, waiting on the weather to break. So about 250 days of rain per year, lots of overcast, lots of moisture, lots of clouds, and temperatures freezing, and mountains surrounding the harbor. Wind sometimes are just incredibly challenging, so it's going to take a pretty good pilot to get in here. And that's why we're flying in here, not because we're a pretty good pilot, because it's a challenge and we like to challenge ourselves. So hopefully we'll see it all come together and go well. So let's get back in the game here. That's about it on fun fact. I want to mention the Elbow Room, which is now the current local entertainment spot. It's a bar. It's ranked by Playboy magazine. There's our overspeed. Let's see, backlight power. It lets me know. That's what it's there for. Yeah, it was ranked by Playboy magazine. Okay, we're going on down to
Tier 1 Whiskey Alpha, traffic 1 o'clock, 7 miles, westbound, heavy boy 747, descending out
keep that descent coming down.
You'll be following him.
And just to finish that thought, it was ranked by Playboy magazine as the roughest bar in the United States. It's a very dubious ranking and honor they have there. So we're looking at 1,400 feet, and we're coming down to 1,500 feet. So I'm going to slow that up a little bit, and so we're coming down through flight level 180. We want to go ahead and get our altimeter set on the local, and see what that is. Right now it's still 29902, but I'm going to see, this is actually the frequency for the AWAS, and see if we can switch that. I don't know if we'll pick it up or not. It may still be a little too far out, but when we do, we can double check that altimeter setting. Well, there we go. The B key did it there for me, 3012 it looks like, and that's what my weather forecast was showing. So that should get us there in the ballpark. Now, one thing I need to do is go ahead and activate that approach before we get to Morty. So I want to go ahead and do that now. So let's go back here, procedures, and let's activate the approach. There we go. Now we're direct Morty and 400 knots, and now we're looking at a 1,200 foot a minute descent. So we can go back to our map here. 1282. We're doing 1,400. I think we'll slow it up a little bit more, and we're just monitoring that descent. And it's working out pretty well. See how we're looking here. There's 1,200, okay. And ground speed now is 390 knots. We're going to keep an eye on these clouds as we descend down into them. And if we need to, we'll go ahead and bring on some anti-icing. But our outside temperature right now, we're minus 17, but it's fairly warm actually. And I'm expecting that will be actually above freezing when we get into those clouds, so should be fine on that. Let's take a look at our checklist and just see. We've set our altimeter, and before we get down to 10,000, we're going to want to get our airspeed slowed down to the 250 knot speed limit. So that's the next thing on my list. So I want to go down and take a look. We're coming down through 15,000, doing about 290 something indicated there. I'm going to ease the power back a little bit more. Just a tad more.
Papa Alpha Delta Uniform Automated Weather Observation.
There we go.
0641 Zulu. Wind calm. Visibility 18. Sky condition 1,600 scattered. Ceiling 2,600 overcast. Temperature 8 Celsius. Dew point 6 Celsius. Altimeter 3013. Papa Alpha Delta Uniform Automated Weather Observation.
Okay, so 3013 on the altimeter.
Visibility 18.
Calm winds, visibility is 18 miles.
1,600 scattered. Ceiling.
And they've got scattered clouds at 1,600 and overcast at 2,600. So about what we expected. And let's just get in here and get ourselves slowed on up. Coming down through 14,000, and actually we are slowing nicely. We're doing 270 knots now, and I think we can slow up our descent a little bit more, so we'll do that, which will also help slow us up. Yep, I'm pretty happy with the descent so far, and the management with the GPS just makes things easy. We just have to pay attention to what we're doing, and don't let all these fun facts and other things distract us too much here. And so I'm going to review the approach chart. 2500 is where we will start the approach, and it's a circling approach. The minimum descent altitude is 1,820 feet. So if we have not broken out by that and we arrive at the missed approach point, then we will apply the missed approach, which will take us back to the Iliutian intersection, which is right here, and you can see the holding pattern right there indicated. And so what are we? Still 50 miles out from Iliut, but we're doing pretty fast here. 319, we'll be there in no time, and our speed's coming on down nicely as we descend through 12,600, and we're almost doing the 250 knots. So I'm gonna leave our power. We're at 80% in one right now. I'm gonna leave it set pretty much right there. One nice feature I will say about the this modification by Bert Pieke is that there is a switch right here, a click spot, that once we land, I'm going to try to position my cursor right there, because that lets me deploy the dump system here, which dumps, basically it brings up all the spoilers and dumps the flaps almost vertical and gets rid of a lot of lift. And since we've got a fairly short runway, I want to make daggone sure that we get stopped. And because if we go off the end, we're going to be in the water. So this airplane, it doesn't love short runways, but I think we can get in there okay. Coming up on 10,000 feet, we'll go ahead and get on some lights up here. Bring our landing lights on. We'll go ahead and put our beacon in the pulse mode. We've already got our strobes and navs on. Let's go ahead and let our passengers get buckled up and ready for the arrival. And we do need to close these valves here before we land, so we have time to do that. And let's check in on our temperature and see where we are there. They're -5 right now, and at 10,000 feet, so it's warming up as we go down. I'm sure where the top of these clouds are, we're still got a little ways to go before we get in them. But we'll just keep an eye on it. If we need the anti-icing, we'll definitely bring it on. We've already got our pitot stall heat on there, our vane, and our screen heat is on course. And we'll cut on our ignitions. Actually, we'll go ahead and do that just to make sure that we don't have a flame out here. Down now through 10,000 feet and close enough to 250 knots. Hopefully we don't get any negative comments there. Pretty. The sun's going down. So looks like we picked a good day to come into here. Don't know if we'll see any ships out there on the Barren Sea. Fishing, maybe some of the deadliest catch guys, the Northwestern is one of them. Used to watch that show a lot, haven't seen it lately. So one of the nice features about this Garmin is that it will overlay the chart, the approach chart, right onto our map. So I've selected terrain, which isn't really showing up well yet, but eventually I think it will show me terrain, and I may zoom that in. Let's see, there's 40 miles, might help a little bit. And so we keep an eye on the terrain over here. We are going to have to dodge some mountains on the way in. So let's get down here, let's take another look, just to see how we're doing. 27 miles from Iliut, coming through 8,000, calling for 970 feet a minute descent, doing 900. I think we'll be fine there. I can see our speed's up just a little fast, so I'm going to go ahead and ease our power on back. It's slowed up. Air traffic control is kind of like the highway patrol in the United States. They'll give you about a little bit of grace, a percentage. So there's a saying with the highway patrol that I've heard, I don't know if it's true or not, but if you do 9, you're fine, 10, you're mine. So tend to stay within 9 miles of the speed limit, and I personally haven't had a ticket in a lot of years. My last one was probably 30 years ago, and so yep, try to keep it under the speed limit. There's the moon, looks pretty cool. And then there's the sun back over there. Yeah, sky's pretty, everything's looking good here. Coming on down. Said slow that descent up just a little bit. Ease our power on back just a little bit. When we get close to a loot, I'll go ahead and start slowing us up more to closer to the approach speed. Just want to kind of keep the coal on it and expedite the arrival here. It's been a nice flight, 650 nautical miles or so, about an hour and 45-minute flight from Kenai. And when we get here, I have a little surprise, and that is that I'm going to reveal the next airplane that we'll be flying, and we'll be flying it from Dutch Harbor back over to Cold Bay. And it's a new released airplane, so I'll be showing you that, unless I forget to, but I'll try not to do that. I'll try to remember. I want to get down here, get my head in the game, and about 15 miles from Iliut. We're just going to kind of concentrate on this flying this approach and getting our speed, altitude, and everything where we want it. And let me just run through the checklist. We're going to go ahead on the automatic power reserve, and we've got our lights on, and go ahead and get our engine sync off. Actually, let's take that off. And we're going to also go ahead and close these valves here. All these valves in preparation for the arrival. So 8 miles now from Iliut. I'm going to go ahead and bring my power on back and get that display back up there. And I'll bring it back to about 65% to get us slowed up. That seems to work pretty well for flying the approaches. Okay, there's 65%. And we're starting to slow up a little more. I'm calling for 700 foot a minute descent now, so I'm going to go ahead and start bringing that up where your IMC. And now we're not. IMC, Instrument Meteorological Conditions. For those that don't know what that stands for. So I'm starting to see some of the terrain showing up here. We're still on the 40-mile range there, slowing up to coming down through 210 knots, 3,700 feet, 600 feet a minute, pretty close to what the Garmin's telling us. And I'm going to go ahead and zoom in on this range here. There's 20-mile range right there. So you can see we're going to skirt around these mountains right here. And that's 1,000 to go. So we're coming down to 2,500. And I think I said the overcast was 2,600, so we're probably going to stay in this IMC here for a bit. We should be leveling off, and I just do want to make sure we're set at 2,500 feet, 195 knots, and I do want to be sure that we do level off there. I see my vertical speeds coming down 500 feet a minute now. So yep, I'm pretty satisfied. 3,000 feet to go, and we're 8 miles from that waypoint that I can't pronounce, and I set it for 5 miles, so to be at 2,500 feet, 5 miles from there, so it did pretty much exactly what I wanted it to, and it's letting me know that we are, it's just telling me, I guess, that we're arriving at that, I don't know, approaching target altitude. There we go. Now we can start our descent down to our minimum descent altitude of 1,800 feet at the final approach fix, which is AVSIM is how it's pronounced, and AVSIM is right there. So that's where we could start down from 2,500. And we're leveling off, speed's coming down, 180 knots, and so we want to get slowed on up to closer to approach speed once we get past here. We've still got about 5 miles to go. Picking up a few bumps I can see, just the indications here. Let's see, we're not still in the clouds. Yeah, we're kind of in and out of them. So I do think we're going to get in there pretty easily in terms of
2,500.
The only question is
2,500.
the tough part is flying the approach and getting into the runway without
2,500.
embarrassing myself.
2,500.
So we'll just see how it goes. We're here in the 2,500 call out because we're above
2,500.
sea level and we're flying at 2,500, so I hope that doesn't get too annoying. You can't cancel it, even though I can hit that right there, which is the altitude call outs. I think we'll still hear it. I may be wrong, maybe that does work. We'll see. Okay, so we're down to about 160 knots here and about a mile from Iliutian. That was about as good a pronunciation as I can do on that one. Really, the 65% setting is still working out pretty well. And 5 miles to go before we start our descent. We'll go, it's like 4 miles to go, and we'll go about another mile or two and get our gear down. Get some flaps on. Hadn't heard any more of those call outs yet. So here's the terrain. Actually, let me zoom us in one more notch here. Here we go. So we're seeing that terrain that we're trying to miss. Let's go ahead and get a notch of flaps on, and let's get our gear down. And once we get right here, we're going to go ahead and start our descent and see if we can get under this overcast. We're down about 135 knots or so. I don't want to go any slower than that. Actually, may need to add just a touch of power. And I'll take it off when we start going down. We're a mile from that final approach fix. About 70% power here. Add a little bit more. It's a little slower than I want to be, but we're getting ready to start down here. So let's go ahead and dial down now. I'm actually seeing, I think I'm hearing the stick shaker. We're so slow, but we're on the way down now, and I can see the airport, so we're going to go ahead and dial this on down, and I'm actually going to go ahead and go into heading mode now, and I'm going to start turning us just a little bit. So we're trying to clear these mountains right over here, and I'm going to turn us just a little bit and ease back on that power. This is the extended center line right here, the runway. You can see there's the end. There's a mountain right there, the mountain right there. Back on that power just a little bit more. Now we just went back into the clouds. That's not good. Now we're coming down. So we're going to go ahead and take over from autopilot. I'll get us another notch of flaps in, and we're going to start our turn into final. Let's get rid of that flight director. Just keep it coming down. Now I am not hearing those call outs, so I'm going to bring those back on. Actually, I do want them right now. Those up, and there's our runway. Let's get this suspended. We're committed to a landing. And let's ease that power back and get us
1,000.
I'm going to go ahead and get another notch of flaps in. Slow us on up. And I'm going to put this right here, so I'll be ready to deploy the dump system.
$500.
500. 400.
Better lined up here. A little fast.
300. Minimum 100. 100. 50. 40. 30. 20. 10.
And we'll dump that. Reverse. Brake. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Dutch Harbor, Alaska. Thank you for flying with FS MaNiA Airlines.
$100, 50, 40, 30, 20, 10.
Move over here. And let's clear this caution, clear this active, and then we'll clean up the airplane. Yeah, that was exciting. Okay. Very exciting. Okay, let's just pause right here for a second. So I'm going to set this brake. And let's get our lights taken care of up here. So we want to get their strobes off. And bring this beacon back and get that light off there. And we'll go ahead and cut the emissions off now. That's fine. Okay, let's run through after landing checklist. We want to retract flaps and all of this stuff right here. So we should be able to do that. Yep, just by hitting that button that brings those back up. And let's bring those flaps up. The landing lights are off. And let's get rid of our anti-icing, which is up here. All these can come off, and we can disarm our APR right there, and our radar we did not use, and transponder we can go to standby, but it's already done that for us with the GTN, which is really nice. And our cabin dump, we can go ahead and open that up. It's right there. And just start our APU. Go ahead and get that going. So it'll be ready to go. Everything's spooling up right there. And let's see, that's on. And let's get over here. We're going to taxi. And I'll show you my little surprise that I have, which is the next airplane that we're going to be flying. And we're going to fly it from here. Again, I think I've said this, but we're going to fly it from here over to Cold Bay. And super nice airplane. It's modeled by A2A Simulations. It's just been released. Many of you have already seen it, maybe. Okay, I got some weird things happening here. Apologize. The scenery, I have tried to correct that, but haven't had much luck. I've got a conflict somewhere. Frankly, I think I just got tired of messing with it and gave up. But there, right there, is our next airplane. It is the Piper Comanche by A2A, 250 horsepower, retractable gear. It's a very fast airplane, comparable to the Beechcraft Bonanza, and lots and lots of fun flying that airplane. I've already spent a lot of good hours in it, and look forward to flying it. And it's got some just awesome features. I really like the airplane a lot. So that's it. That's the Piper Comanche. We'll take another look at it here. Let's get all this shut down. Set that brake and do our shutdown. So thrust reversers are off. And let's get up here and cut off the emergency lights. It's these right here. There we go. Emergency lights are off. And let's come down here. Let these engines off right here. That one off right there. Come back up here and let's get rid of these engine computers. Which, there we go. They're off. And we cut off our fuel pumps. Emissions are off. Everything's off there. And we'll leave our air conditioning on for our passengers. Got those valves. And let's see, did we let them open up? And let's see, landing lights, taxi lights. Yep, they're off. And since we're powered, we'll leave the nav light on. We cut the beacon off. Strobe is off there. Yep. Okay, all of that is off. Screen heat, yep. Alternators, we kicked them off too. And technically we cut off the radio masters down here, but doesn't really change anything. You can see we still have all our avionics are on, but we'll do it anyway. And we can go ahead and cut this off right here. unarm that. And APU, let's see, we need to cut that bleed air on, don't we? Make sure our passengers have, oopsie, didn't mean to come back there. Speaking of passengers, make sure our passengers have air conditioning. And let's see, we can open our door here, cockpit door. There it is. And let's climb out. Let's see if I've left everything. I did not cut off our oxygen. We'll do that. Okay. And our nav lights, we're leaving those on, but let's just get out and take another look at that, little closer look over there at the Comanche. So bear with me as I maneuver out of here. Back here, get this door open. A little tight in here, as you can see. There's our handle right there. Should open her up. And it does. Head on down. Watch your head. And there is Dutch Harbor. Lots of airplanes out here. So, all in all, we walked away from the landing. And we're going to walk right over here. Oops, don't bump into that. Is that a Bonanza? I believe it is. No, that's not a Bonanza. That's a twin engine Bonanza. It's not a twin. I mean, it's a beach, but what is that? That's a, it's not a King Air. Daggone it. I should know. I'll figure it out later. Yeah, so I got these little Tonka toys. I don't know. I really tried my best to get rid of those things, and they're weird. It's odd. Sometimes I see them, sometimes I don't. I don't know. But anyway, here is the beautiful A2A Piper Comanche, and I can't wait to take you flying in it. It is phenomenally modeled. I mean, those guys at A2A, they just keep getting better and better. And this is actually one of the owner's airplane, Scott, I think his name is, I forget, but it's modeled after that. And this is a repaint, and I will give credit to the repainter on the next video. I don't have his name at the tip of my tongue right now, but super nice airplane. And so we're going to go from flying the Carenado HAWKER to flying the the Piper Comanche. And I have some time in Pipers, but I've never flown a real Comanche. But I am definitely looking forward to flying this one. It is a fun airplane to fly. It's got power, it's fast, and I know this is a weird looking shot right here, apologize, but you get the idea. Beautiful repaint that's done. It's a pretty much vintage, and so yeah, that is coming next at FS MaNiA. So right now we're going to put on our rocket powered tennis shoes, and we're going to get an aerial view of weird things here at Dutch Harbor. And pretty much it looks like most of the fishing fleet is back over in this area right here. I don't know if we'll be able to see any of the boats from the airport here. There's weird things, I apologize, happening with this scenery, but yeah, there's some of the fleet there. And very nice harbor here, Dutch Harbor, fairly well protected, but still picks up lots and lots and lots of wind. So it's I'm sure very challenging for pilots that do fly in here. They definitely earn their money, and but you'll be seeing more of it. Yeah, there's some terrain issues here, and like I said, I've tried my best to resolve them, and unfortunately haven't been able to. So just lived with them, and Had a fun time flying. I really appreciate you joining me, and hope you'll be back on the next one. Until then, I'll say thanks for watching and so long from FS MaNiA.
Northern 14, contact anchored center 125.7. See ya.